Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony DeQuano.
So, Tony, let's continue our Oscar discussion, our Best Picture winners, with a movie from early in the Oscars days. This one was what? The Oscars started in, 29? Is that right? Was that the first Oscars? Something like that?
That sounds right. This is the 97th Oscars.
That's currently going, that's currently this year.
I know the original first couple years, technically, they would span a couple years. So, the first movie to win was Wings, and that was for the movies from 1927 to 1928. But then the following year, the Broadway Melody won, and that covered 1928 to 1929. Now it's a full calendar year, but originally it was a date in between the two.
Yeah, because originally they had two movies also, didn't they? Because they had technically two separate categories for Best Picture kind of thing. It wasn't.
They had, I think for the first year, you're correct. Yes. But yeah, this is the 16th Oscars that won at the 16th Oscars. That's the best way to say it right there.
Yes. The movie that won the Best Picture at the 16th Oscars,
which was held in 1944. So the first year would have been 1928. So,
but anyway,
it's a classic. And we haven't done any classics.
Yeah, we were talking about Casablanca, the classic,
a true
1942 film.
Golden Age Hollywood classic. And it's funny because when the Oscars started, it was still a lot of mostly silent movies. And looking back now, kind of not really, at that point they would have been called a talkie, but they've had over a decade of them. But yeah.
Now this is a movie that has always been on my radar, but I'd never watched it until now.
I think at a certain point, it's a movie that just ends up easily on your radar, right?
Oh, yeah.
As just one of those great Hollywood movies. Again, it took me, I've seen it now. This is probably my second time seeing it, to be honest, maybe the third. And it took me until after college to actually see it. But it's been on my radar for a long time because it was just up there as a classic. And there's so many parts of it that are iconic.
Yeah. This movie is referenced probably more than any other classic Hollywood movie.
Yeah. I think growing up as a kid, there's certain movies in the era that are not animated movies that you know and actually have seen, like The Wizard of Oz. Right? There's a few other movies in that era, like Gone with the Wind, Wonderful Life, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess you can move a little bit into the 50s and talk about a few, but Casablanca is one that stands there, and it's probably the most famous of all of them. Save for maybe It's a Wonderful Life. So its lines are everywhere.
Yes.
Which actually probably, outside of a few, you can't say the same thing about It's a Wonderful Life. There's probably about 3 lines or so that you can kind of automatically know that's a wonderful life, right? But this is just, even some of the particular scenes in which they happen and just are kind of cemented into just pop culture, broadly now.
Yeah.
And it's been 80 years and it's remained an absolute classic.
Mm-hmm.
And for very good reason. Yeah.
It's definitely it's a good movie. Watching a movie, it's always interesting going back and watching classic movies like this because they're so much different than modern movies. Just the way that they made them,
yes.
The acting style, just everything. It's just so much different than how movies are done now. But at the same time, you're seeing the influences that modern movies have. That they've taken from these classics and brought and updated to now.
No, totally, I agree. One of those things I look at, and it's a movie that I think a lot of movies at that time definitely they defy kind of any particular genre trappings, right? And so this, someone could easily say, this really isn't you call it a noir, but it's not really a noir.
Yeah,
in the sense that The Maltese Falcon, which is kind of another famous movie of that era, might be, or Double Indemnity. Thinking about a few others of that era, and it's cited as a romance, but it's more than just a romance. There's it's kind of like a political thriller in some ways as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, very much so.
And it's weird looking at it. It's also kind of quasi a war movie.
Yeah, it is. They're trying to escape the Nazis.
Fucking Nazis. It's always the Nazis.
It's always the Nazis.
But yeah,
Nazis. I hate these guys.
And I knew that was, I remember it being, and just broadly knowing that was kind of the setup. But no, it really is deeply embedded into this movie.
Yes, it is. It's. The whole thing, it is deeply, deeply embedded in the movie.
It doesn't really exist if it wasn't for the Nazis, to be honest.
No. No.
But, and the thing about the genre is like one of the things I recall as I was truly kind of getting into, I guess you could say, deeper into film was like the AFI list. I remember like the first one and then some of the subsequent ones. And it's like, it's all over those lists. The original AFI list, which was 1998, it was number 2. It was on the 100 Years, 100 Thrills list at number 37. It's the number 1 at the 100 Passions list. Rick Blaine was the 4th biggest hero. As Time Goes By, it was the 2nd highest rated song. It was the 32nd most inspirational film back in 2006. In 2007, for the 10th edition of the AFI list, it had slipped to 3. And then under most famous movie quotes back in 2005, it had 6 lines on that list.
6 from one movie on that list. Wow.
The most of any others. Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz were tied at 2nd with 3 apiece.
So not just, one more than second place. It had 3 more lines than
3 more.
The second place movies. Wow.
And it had 1 more that was nominated, but didn't make the final list. And as in terms of Oscars, right? So this was when they still originally had 10 nominees, and then went to 5, then back to 10. Was nominated for Best Picture, as we said. Best Director, Michael Curtis, he won. Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. Humphrey Bergman. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart
and
was nominated for Best Actor, but he did not win. Ingrid Bergman was nominated that year, but not for this. She was nominated for Whom the Bell Tolls.
Okay.
And Claude Rains was nominated as supporting actor, but did not win. It did win Best Screenplay, and it was based off an unproduced stage play called Everybody Comes to Rick's.
Huh. Interesting.
And then nominated for Best Score. It did not win for that. It was nominated for Best Cinematography, Black and White, because this is the time when there were a lot of black and white films, and there were also color films. So there were 2 separate categories for a lot of these, which, it makes sense. Best Film Editing, it did not win. It did not win Best Special Effects. I do like back in the 1940s, there was still Best Special Effects. But back then, they combined photographic effects with sound effects within that category.
Huh.
Which they're split now as separate things. So so it actually only won 3 Oscars. Won big ones, Best Picture, Director, and Screenplay. So
all right.
And he Humphrey Paul Lucas, Watch on the Rhine. You see, I know a lot of movies from that time period. I know a lot of the movies that have won Best Picture, Best Director, the lead actors. That is one movie that I struggle to be able to tell you what it's about. So I would say Humphrey Bogart probably got robbed.
Yep.
Maybe
probably.
not. I don't know. I looked into this because I was interested. Because, Humphrey Bogart is one of the most famous actors of all time.
Yeah. And this is the first Humphrey Bogart movie I've ever seen.
Ah, interesting. So you've never seen Maltese Falcon?
No, I haven't seen Maltese Falcon.
That would be a good one to check out.
Yeah, I've thought about it.
But he did die kind of young, so that is one part of that. And let's see, where are his awards? I was looking at, he only nominated for 3 Oscars. He was also nominated for The African Queen and The Caine Mutiny, and he won for The African Queen with Katharine Hepburn in that. So, which I have seen that. It's been a very long time. I worked for a guy once. That was his favorite movie of all time, was The African Queen.
Okay.
It's like, oh, that's an interesting classic choice. It's the classic movie, and I've never heard anyone pick that as their favorite movie.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
That was his favorite movie.
That's his favorite movie. That's his favorite movie. Who are we to judge someone's favorite movie?
No, unless it's Norbit.
I mean, somebody might love Eddie Murphy.
Maybe there's a
playing himself and his girlfriend.
Eddie Murphy's that just loves Norbit.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
That is an Oscar-nominated movie, by the way. Best makeup.
I was going to say best makeup. It's got to be best makeup.
I don't think TCM will ever air it. I might be wrong, but
they might.
So anyway, we'll go back to the discussion. Some of the actors here. Ingrid Bergman also is just another absolute classic actress, and she's just kind of stunning in this. She just mesmerizes you.
Yeah,
with it. She's got a real beauty to her, and I didn't realize how young she was when they made this. I shouldn't say that young. Maybe overstating it a bit, but she was young. She would have been about 27. So Humphrey Bogart had about 15, 16 years on her. Because I was looking closer at her biography, and she died young too. She died later than Bogart. She died at the age of 67 in 1982 from, I want to say it was breast cancer, or maybe it was I think it was lymphoma actually, but cancer regardless. And she won for Gaslight, Anastasia, and Murder on the Orient Express.
All right.
Which was probably the first Ingrid Bergman movie I saw. I had seen it at some point in high school. One of the teachers, like towards the end of the school year, was like, "I'm gonna watch Murder on the Orient Express."
Okay,
so that's what we did.
Yeah, just like Humphrey Bogart, this is my first Ingrid Bergman movie. So I'm just watching a lot of firsts this time.
Yeah, The Maltese Falcon would have been my first Bogart movie. What about Claude Rains?
Claude Rains, I can't say that I've really seen any. Honestly, I haven't seen a whole lot of movies from this era of Hollywood.
Okay.
Like, I know, like, all the references and all that, and I know of all of them, I feel like I've seen them.
I know. I have seen, I think the first one I saw with him was Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
I have seen that one.
All right, there we go.
So, I have seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
I saw that in high school also, in government class, I think.
Yes, me too. Watched it in high school and government class, senior year.
That's I think it's an appropriate movie to show in high school government class.
Yes, I agree.
So, if you've not seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, we both recommend Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yes, we do.
It's got Jimmy Stewart.
Yes, it's got Jimmy Stewart. On. Yes, you can't go wrong with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, he's about as American as he can get.
Yeah,
and even if you're not American, that's okay. You still love Jimmy Stewart.
I mean, he's done more than just It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
Which, again, is a good movie. It's a classic Christmas movie. I mean, come on.
Is it a Christmas movie?
I mean, that's to be debated. It can go either way.
Movie.
It's a good movie. Yes, it's still a good classic movie.
And then his later career, when he made a lot of movies with Alfred Hitchcock, were all also great movies.
Yeah,
Rear Window and Vertigo in particular, and Rope. I should say Rope also. But yeah, he's a terrific actor. He's not in this movie, but Claude Rains was in both. So I just remember him from high school. Then it wasn't long after I saw Claude Rains in a Hitchcock movie, Notorious, with Clark Gable. So when I saw that freshman year of college, I'm like, oh, that dude was in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I had not seen Casablanca yet. And then I had happened to be like just kind of flipping through, and I discovered that he was nominated for the Oscars for both of those movies. But at one point he kind of became, he's been cited. So he was nominated 4 times. He had a couple other nominations as being kind of one of the better actors that have never won an Oscar. He was kind of I guess you could say, prolific kind of character actor during that time period. So it's always interesting kind of talking about some of these guys or ladies also, because it was so long ago.
Yeah.
And they probably had a lot of stuff that if you went to movies regularly at that time, that you would have seen them in a bunch of different things that, were just kind of average movies. Not necessarily bad movies, but because they're kind of average, they've just kind of been lost to time.
Yeah. Now, do you know how this movie, Casablanca, connects to Batman?
How does it connect to Batman?
Conrad Veidt.
Okay.
Who was Major Heinrich Strasser in Casablanca. He was the inspiration for Joker's look. His 1928 movie, The Man Who Laughs. Bob Kane took Conrad Veidt in that movie as a reference when he was creating the Joker.
Okay. I could see it. I could see that. Yeah, it's funny. This is also like that era when the Batman comics first came out.
Mm-hmm. It's just a few years after. Batman came out in 1939.
It's got that vibe.
Yep.
Very, very different era of culture.
Yeah.
I think things dramatically have shifted. But this has stood the test of time. Batman has stood the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are.
Then we've also got Sidney Greenstreet in this movie.
Yes.
Another classic actor.
I would also be Paul Henreid is also in this, who would have been, kind of a classic actor at the time. Peter Lorre.
Yep.
And there was one guy that's really stuck with me as I was watching it, that shows up in a few scenes, and I will probably butcher his last name. His name is Kurt Bois.
Kurt Bois.
B-O-I-S. Boss.
Kurt Bois.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
he had a long career.
Yeah.
It was like 80 years. And yeah, one of the longest careers in cinema, spanning over 80 years. And I really like him in this because he's kind of funny.
Yeah, he is.
Like a small role that pops up like
Yeah,
every so often.
He just pops in and out of the scenes. Just pops in, picks a pocket, pops out.
You got to be on the lookout for him. He was German, but he was Jewish, so it's okay that he was German because he was Jewish. Because you feel bad for him, right? Like you could say, like, oh yeah, he was German, so he gets shunned, but no, he's Jewish, and it's different. So yeah, but no, he like left. A lot of his early movies, which is probably why it'd be hard to find for German movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he had to leave because if you're Jewish in Germany in the early 20th century,
it wouldn't want to stick around in Germany at that time.
Yeah, but then he started doing a bunch of Hollywood movies. And I'm looking here, like, again, a lot of these movies, I've never heard of, and then he did. I guess later in life he did go back and start doing a bunch of TV movies in Germany. And his last one was a Wim Wenders movie, Wings of Desire. He played Homer. And if you're not familiar with Wings of Desire, it was remade as the Meg Ryan, Nicolas Cage classic, City of Angels. It also features the Goo Goo Dolls song classic, Iris.
Yes, it does.
So, good career. Yeah. That's right. That's his Wikipedia page. He is best remembered for his performances as the pickpocket in Casablanca and the poet Homer in Wings of Desire. So, he played Homer, and then just a few years later, there was Socrates in Bill and Ted.
Yes.
You got all of them but Aristotle.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think, I guess we could jump into it.
I think we could. So, as always, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then pause the podcast, watch the movie, and then come back and listen. If you have seen the movie or you just don't mind spoilers, and keep on listening, but you have been warned, we will be spoiling this 80-some-odd-year-old movie.
We don't give a damn. That's the wrong 80-year-old movie.
That is the wrong 80-year-old movie.
So, to get back to what you were saying earlier, how you can tell the change. Like one of the immediate things, if you've seen any movie that's before 1960, is the entire credits is before.
Yes, the entire credits before the start of the movie.
And if you're listening to our podcast, you probably are aware of that, but maybe you're not.
Yeah,
maybe you just stumbled upon this after you heard Dante's Peak episode and you stuck with us. And now we're talking about some 80-year-old movie, and you have no idea. Yeah, no, it used to be all the credits were just at the beginning of the movie, and not just like, oh yeah, the main cast, the director, the screenwriter,
all the credits.
No, yeah, every person involved, the dolly grip, the caterer, the special thanks, all of it. Now back then, today credits are always 10 minutes long.
Yeah, back then credits were 30 seconds, but. Because there weren't as many people working on movies. Yeah. They didn't have all the special effects and everything.
In the last 25 years or so, credits have just gotten longer and longer and longer. That's okay. It's good to shout out everybody.
Yes, it is. The people who did the work deserve the credit. So
but the other thing you kind of get with a lot of these movies, and this is no different, is the newsreel voiceover.
Yes.
Kind of gives you the needed exposition.
Yeah. Because this is back when movies didn't always necessarily just show you the exposition. They would explain it to you right off the bat so that you don't go in completely blind.
And I like it here. So even during the credits, the credits are being displayed over a map of Africa as it was in the early 1940s.
Yes. Yes.
Which is kind of wild to look at, to be honest.
Yeah, it really is. And it's kind of panning west, over northern Africa until it lands on French Morocco.
It gives you a good sense of oh yeah, imperialism, colonialism.
And it talks about how the story takes place in the city of Casablanca in French Morocco.
And, it actually touches upon something that's okay, it's funny, of all the movies that you would think that kind of actually will reference Casablanca or this particular aspect of world history, Men in Black, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of describes Earth in some ways as kind of a stopover.
Yeah.
For aliens, right?
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones references it as kind of like Casablanca.
Kind of like Casablanca without the Nazis, yep.
And we get that rundown at the beginning of Casablanca.
Yep.
Right? Because obviously you have refugees. And when you get to a certain point within this time frame, it's harder for refugees to leave because if you kind of forgot your world history or even American history, France at some point got occupied
Yeah.
by the Germans.
Yes.
So now that country that was there to get you to England, to get you to America, was not there.
The late 30s and early 40s were a turbulent time, especially in Europe. So yeah, if you don't know about everything that went on at that time, then open a history book. And there's way too much for us to really get into it all right now. But
or you could watch Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards.
You could watch that too.
The ending's a little different than what actually happens in world history, but it's a fun ending.
It's still enjoyable. But yeah, so they waste no time getting to the MacGuffin of this movie.
Oh, they waste
no time getting the MacGuffin. So part of this voiceover that's going on is explaining how these refugees, people trying to get out of Germany, some of them possess letters of transit. It's basically a golden ticket to get out.
Yes.
So if you have these letters of transit, then, you go and you present them and you can just get through any blockade, any, whatever to get out of the area.
The goal would be is because you can't get to England or Ireland because Nazis are in France, is you got to get to a point that you can get up to Lisbon, which is Portugal, and then you can make your way to America, or I guess you can stay in Lisbon. But Casablanca at that time, because Morocco was French, but again, it's more like it's French controlled.
Yes.
And so a lot of these areas, you kind of had a lot of split loyalties, right? You might have been it would have been like Vichy controlled France, but it's not like it was ruled with a total, you could kind of exist there, but you're kind of stuck there if you're a refugee.
Yeah.
So you can get out if you can get your golden ticket, but you're going to pay a lot of money to get out.
Yes.
To either find a letter of transit or get smuggled out somehow. That's essentially what's happening here.
Yeah. So basically, the Nazis are going around and they're searching for these people that are carrying around these letters of transit. And when they find them, they're killing them.
Yeah. And those, in particular, what sets it up is there's 2 German soldiers that had a couple of them, and they were murdered. And so now these letters of intent have been brought to Casablanca, and they need to find the person responsible for them, kill them, and then get the letters of transit.
Yep.
And so we get this lovely shot of Casablanca. We got dudes in fezzes, the pouring types of coffee.
There needs to be more dudes in fezzes in movies.
The hats in this movie are fantastic.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
I love the hat we're in this movie.
The hats in this movie are fantastic.
Oh, by the way, it's not actually shot in Morocco. It was shot in California.
Really?
Because Northern Africa in the early 1940s was a turbulent time.
See, I thought they just carried a camera around and just filmed the real events that were going on.
It's much better and safer to shoot your Hollywood picture
in Hollywood. Yeah.
That's what they did, right? And so I love how we get to a scene they talk about we need to, they don't say the exact line. They say, find the usual suspects or something like that, right? There's a line later that's the exact line at the end of the movie, which the movie, The Usual Suspects, borrows itself from it, right? I love there's a guy they need to see his papers. He's like, oh, I don't have my papers, right? And so oh, you're gonna have to come with us. It's like, oh wait, I have them here.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, these are expired. And so then he runs. they just
shoot him. Yep, they just shoot him.
Like, okay. Hey, this was a different time.
Yeah.
These are different people with different rules.
Yeah.
Then we get a couple, they're watching this fracas, and we're seeing other people getting arrested and hauled off, and he knows what's happening to them. And they're kind of concerned about it, like, oh, no, we got to get, find our way, and we have a way to get a ticket, and goes on. And then, we cut to a dude in a monocle.
A dude in a monocle. Okay, so I have always wondered, what is the purpose of a monocle? Is that for when only one of your eyes goes bad?
I don't know.
Or is it just like a status symbol?
I don't know. I love it because this dude he's not wearing it on a
No,
he's not wearing it ironically.
He's not wearing it. No, he's not wearing it ironically, and he doesn't have like the chain that goes down from it that most monocles had. He just has it stuck in his eye. He just got it there. Like it's either the perfect size for his eye socket, or he's like squinting down onto it to hold it constantly.
Which he might be. he maybe he lost his chain and he just has to hold
maybe
it like that. Anyway, he's English. Like, I wonder, like, did he get stuck in Casablanca? Did he need to get back home? And because he and his wife were talking about this, and that's when our pickpocket shows up.
Yes.
He starts telling him about all the drama that's going on, and he gets distracted enough that he picks his pocket.
Mm-hmm. And
later he goes to his wife, like, "Where's my wallet?" He's trying to pay, and he thinks he left it back in the hotel or wherever it was.
Yep, but nope, the pickpocket took it.
The dude has a legit monocle, and I like. I just love it. It's like I'm not watching this. I'm not expecting to see a monocle.
No,
in this movie, like, yeah. And then, like, it's not just the monocle. Like, he's got the Panama hat on, too.
Yes. Monocle and Panama hat.
Wearer. This is part of the hat wearer. He's got a Panama hat with a monocle.
Yes.
He just does not care.
I think this Halloween I might have to dress up like that guy. Get myself a Panama hat and a monocle.
You're like, who are you? I'm this guy.
I'm Panama Hat Monocle Man from Casablanca.
They're like, who? Hey, you know Kurt Bois? He pickpocketed him in Casablanca.
Oh, that guy.
What?
I thought you were talking about the other Panama Hat Monocle Man.
The one that's a peanut. He does not have a no. That's a top.
That's a top hat. Yes.
Oh, that's where the confusion came in. It's just right there.
There may be somebody in Panama that's wearing a top hat, but a top hat is not a Panama hat.
No, it's not. Oh, here we go. I have the actor Gerald Oliver Smith.
Gerald Oliver Smith.
And he is credited here as Englishman. Well, this is at least Wikipedia. As the Englishman whose wallet is stolen, but they neglect the most important part. He has a monocle.
So IMDb has him credited as pickpocketed Englishman.
There we go. And I'm sure he's. I mean, I have no idea what else he was in. But anyway, we don't need to get into that now. Not going down that far. So, okay.
Wow. Man turning propeller at airport.
Oh yes,
that's another. That's another character in this movie. Rafael Trujillo.
Like I would actually want to go back and take a look at the credits. So we know they're 30 seconds, but like, did they put them in credits like that? Did the studio eventually down the road
they're
just changed? Yeah,
I mean, these are uncredited performances.
Yes,
in the movie. So I'd imagine that they were given those character names after the fact.
There we go. Yeah. But it's funny. So our pickpocket is talking to them, just say, like, oh, yeah, 2 German couriers were found murdered in the desert. So he's just kind of telling them about what's going on. So the usual suspects of people that he's the one that kind of tells you about who they might be are refugees, liberals, right? And he said, like, young girls, right? So anyhow, so then that's when we get the sound of the airplane, right? Oh, by the way, the pickpocket, at least in the script, is listed as dark European.
Dark European. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Because, yeah, IMDb has him listed as pickpocket.
Yeah. And that's what I love. He's like, oh, yeah. As they leave, he just says, oh, silly of me. And she's like, what, dear? I left my wallet in the hotel room. Again. So they really did. Just really just tore in Casablanca for some reason.
Hey, dude's got a monocle. He doesn't need a reason.
All right. I get it. Like, London is not safe also during the war. Some kids get sent out to their crazy old uncle whose wardrobe just goes into some fantasy land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where James McAvoy is a woodland creature that will take you to Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
It will give you Turkish Delight, which is never delightful.
Well, I mean, Turkish Delight, actually, it is kind of delightful. But, yeah.
Anyway.
Turkish Delight kind of reminds me a little bit of Jelly Babies.
I could see that. Yeah.
Or, if it's not a wardrobe, then, some kids will meet a witch with a bed that if you turn the bed knob, then, you can travel to cartoon worlds and stuff.
That should have been clue number one. She was going to murder a bunch of people in Maine.
Oh, Angela.
I'm going to find a small village in Maine. I'm just going to murder the entire
First,
town.
I'm going to kidnap these kids, put them in my bed, and travel to all these different cartoon worlds underwater and meet a Lion King that's an actual, not like Simba or Mufasa, but an actual lion with a crown.
You talking about the King of the Island Misfit Toys?
Nope, not that one.
Dorman, come here. And the little polka dot elephant comes. What's so misfit about
polka dot elephant?
Polka dot elephant?
I don't know.
I think the king's a misfit.
One year for Christmas, I asked my sister what she wanted, and jokingly she said, purple elephant with pink polka dots. So I went out and I got an elephant toy, and I spray painted it purple and drew pink polka dots on it.
There you go.
There's nothing wrong with a polka dotted elephant.
I love it.
There's nothing wrong with a polka dotted elephant.
Yeah, no. He's going to blend in. He's smart.
Yep.
The reason why leopards and cheetahs have spots.
Yep.
So they can rip out your jugular. Hey, elephants gonna just blend in too.
Yes, they can.
Maybe not if he's pink and purple. But anyway, so we see a plane flying into Casablanca, and it goes over this place called Rick's, right? And
no, it's called Rick's Cafe Americain.
Yeah. I love to look at it because, I get they need to not show the entire scale.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's right next door to the airport.
Yeah.
In this scene.
Yeah, and when they first show the inside of it, it looks like a small place.
Yeah, but no, it's big.
It's big.
Once you get inside,
yeah.
It's big.
Oh yeah. It looks like this small little hole in the wall kind of place at first, and they get in there, and there's people in fancy clothes.
It's like a combination. It's a lounge, it's a bar, it's a restaurant,
it's a casino. Yeah,
it's got everything.
It's a big place.
But yeah, so there's a German soldier that's on the plane, and he's coming in to check on things in Casablanca. Major Heinrich Strausser, played by Konrad Veidt, who he himself was a refugee from Germany also. I think this is funny because, this is coming from Wikipedia, right? So he fled the Nazis. He was married to, his wife was Jewish. He himself was not, but his wife was. And then they frequently cast him as Nazis in American films. Because he just looked like a Nazi.
I guess they didn't really see the irony there.
So, interesting. I did not know that he was in the cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Really?
It's a famous German expressionist movie, which was between the wars, right? But yeah. Anyway, and he meets there with Captain Renault, played by Claude Rains. Captain Renault, he's the captain of the police there, and
Captain Renault.
Yes,
Captain Renault.
And he plays things to his advantage.
Yes, he is the captain of the police, and he enjoys every benefit of that.
Yes. He's not quite like Yojimbo, where he plays two bad sides against each other.
Mm-hmm.
He will definitely he's looking to get every advantage that he can.
Yes.
And if that means, massaging the German captain that just comes in and finding the person that murdered the Germans that had the golden ticket, then, that's what he's going to do. And he tells them right away. It's like, we know who he is. He's going to be at Rick's tonight. He can come there and it'll be quite a show.
Yep.
And I think we'll get to it. I think it's kind of funny what happens. Because it just... Anyway. And the captain's just like, oh, I've heard of this Rick. We have a whole dossier on him. Right? Because, they're doing the due diligence.
Yes.
They're seeing what's going on there.
Yes, they are. And, I mean, Rick is one of, 2 Americans in all of Casablanca?
Yes.
The other one is Sam, his piano player.
Sam's got to be careful.
Yes, Sam's got to be very careful.
I mean, he's a talented pianist and he's a great singer, but
Yeah,
I mean, he's not Jewish, but
he's not Jewish, but he's a black guy, and
he doesn't quite have the
Germans at the
correct
time
skin color for
the Germans at the time were not all that enthusiastic about people of other races.
Yes,
and we'll just leave it there.
Anyway, so what the captains really kind of wanted to monitor is any chatter among people that are living in Casablanca that are kind of part of a resistance that are sending out information to get people that are actually within truly controlled Nazi territory.
Mm-hmm.
Sending communications across or just even creating pamphlets to get them ready to rise up against the Germans.
Yep.
They're okay with them kind of, people kind of having a somewhat of a peace there, but you're just kind of also stuck there. And as long as you're not saying a whole lot, then you're okay. But there's one person in particular knows that he's going to be looking for, right? And that's going to be one of our other major characters in here, Victor Laszlo.
Victor Laszlo.
Paul Conrad. And he's been, so this is what gets interesting. He's escaped. Not been escaped. He used to be in prison at it's a concentration camps.
Yes, he was. Yeah. So this movie makes a few references to him being in a concentration camp. And I mean, this movie was made at a time when, maybe everything that was going on in the concentration camps wasn't known to the public.
Yes. The public knew that Hitler despised the Jews and that they were putting them in like ghettos.
Mm-hmm. But I guess the full extent of the atrocities that went on at these concentration camps was not common knowledge at the time when this movie was made. So I could understand that they could downplay it.
Yes.
Just because maybe that's what they thought they were at the time. But they made it seem like it was just, a regular old prison.
Like a prison camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, for dissidents.
Where, you go there, you serve your time, and you're let out, basically. Yeah.
Well, to put this in perspective, so it's interesting. So this movie its world premiere was actually the end of 1942, but it actually wasn't released into theaters until 1943. So they had the world premiere in New York at the very end of the year, but they didn't actually release it to the public until January of 43.
Okay.
But it got greenlit essentially a little over a year earlier in December of 1941, like right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And so then they didn't quite get filming on it until a little bit later into 1942. I mean, to give you kind of a more in-depth detail of what's at least going on from an American perspective, right? Since it's an American-made movie, kind of what was happening. So anyway, he was kind of a resistance leader for the loyalists, for different people that are rising against the Germans, right? So we talked about Rick a little bit. We're told that the person that murdered the Germans have the papers will be at Rick's. And Rick, as we said, is an American living in Casablanca. And we don't know his whole backstory yet.
Nope.
We kind of get most of it fairly early in the movie. But we don't know why is he here?
All we know at the start, or at least when it pans over to him, is Rick is played by Humphrey Bogart.
Yes.
That's all we know. And, he owns the establishment.
He owns the most popular nightclub bar in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Humphrey Bogart. And like I said, this place is huge.
Yes. I mean, there's the main room with the bar and everything. Then there's another little lounge where Rick's hanging out that originally, when it first showed him, looked like it might have just been like his office. Then the camera pans over and there's it's actually a big ass room. And there's other people in there, sitting around drinking, chilling. So it's not just his office. It's actually like another little lounge that's in there.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of characters in it. The doorman has a fez.
Yes.
But, you have people that talk about, they're like just people that are trying to get out of Casablanca. And if people have different things and talking to others trying to barter their way out somehow, right? It's like, oh, I got these diamonds. And the guy's like, these diamonds are worth nothing. They mean nothing, right? And we see the pickpocket again. Mm-hmm. Right? We get a variety of other characters. We actually, I don't think we see him yet, but we see the owner of another club in Casablanca. So yeah, we're going around and we meet this guy, Igor, who is played by Peter Lorre.
Yes.
Igor, yes.
Peter Lorre, he comes in to talk to Rick, and he has these letters of transit that the Germans are looking for.
And it's pretty clear early on that he has them, to us anyway.
Yeah.
Like, Rick doesn't know it right away, but he comes, it's kind of funny. Like, I think Rick at first, like, doesn't care much for the guy. It's like, oh, you're good. So, you're finally going to be impressed with me, Rick. And, talking about different things. And he finally lets, know that, oh, yeah, no, I have these, right? I'm trying to find what he said exactly, but. I did like at the casino section. There's a guy's table. It's like a banker from Amsterdam. He thinks it's going to impress Rick. And the lady at the table is like, that doesn't impress Rick.
Yeah. Yeah. So Rick has a rule that he does not join people at their tables. Like, he does not sit down and have a drink with people.
That's right. That's how it gets established.
And all that. So, yeah, because he wants Rick to come over and join him. And they're like, Rick won't do that.
Well, the woman there, I guess the woman is asked about it, and the other guy that works there, Carl, says no. Mm-hmm. And then, it's like the Dutch guy is like, oh, what if he found out about this?
Yeah, Carl is like Rick's right-hand man.
Yes. Is Carl American? Maybe there's 3 Americans.
Yeah, he might be.
All right. Well, the only 3, they work at Rick's.
Rick probably brought them with him from America.
Yes. But yeah, perhaps, that's what he said. Perhaps if you told him I ran the second largest banking house in Amsterdam, right? And that's when Carl says, that wouldn't impress Rick. The leading banker in Amsterdam is now the pastry chef in our kitchen, right? So, but yeah, he has a rule. He doesn't like gamble, doesn't drink with his guest. So, which is probably a good rule.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, especially
after
Casablanca
the events of the movie. But yeah, so.
And that's when... Yeah, Ugar comes in.
Yeah, Ugar comes in.
He's like, oh, hello, Rick. And at first he just wants to tell him to go back to the bar.
No, he insists on seeing him. He insists on talking to Rick.
The German tries coming in as that happens, and he tells the German to go back to the bar. That's what it is. Yeah.
Because it's Rick's place. He can tell people what to do in his place.
Yep.
And so Ugar tells Rick that he's got the letters of transit, and he wants to give them to Rick. He wants Rick to hold on to them for safekeeping. And at first Rick, doesn't want any part of it. But he convinces him to take them. So Rick takes them, puts them in his pocket. And so considering everything that happens around these papers and everything that has happened around these papers before the events of this movie.
Yes.
Rick is a badass.
Oh, yes. He is this.
He takes these papers. He doesn't think twice about possessing these papers that will get you killed if it's found out that you have them. He lies to Nazis' faces when they ask him about these papers. He looks them in the eyes and just lies to them.
He casually just slips them somewhere.
Yeah.
And then these Nazis, and he's like, no,
I don't have them.
You.
Yeah,
I don't have them. I mean, it's funny. Like, he could be at that poker table because he's got a good poker face.
Oh yeah.
I like that you bring this up. He is, he fires like one shot in this movie. Which is later. We'll get to it. And it counts. And absolute subtle badass, without a doubt. But anyway, he's he gives him to Rick because he just thinks, oh, Rick, I trust you because you're cynical, essentially. And there's a certain point within that, right? Like, some people might get too scared having them, right? And they tip them off. The other person would just sell them out and like, you know what? Nazis. Yeah, no, I got him. Here he is. That type of thing. Right?
Not realizing that as soon as he hands him over to the Nazis are likely to kill him.
But it's like, it's not like he needs him himself because he seems like he's pretty set just staying in Casablanca.
Yeah. But, I mean, he's got a good business going.
Kind of asks, why don't you leave? And it's funny, like, he actually gets impressed that this happens. So he takes him and then he tells him to go off to his roulette wheel where he'll have some luck. Anyhow. So he goes off, he's playing, and we still continue to follow Rick around, and then now we get to Sam. We talked about Sam before. Yep. Sam's the piano player in there, and he's
just singing, he's jamming on the piano. Yeah, he's jamming on that piano.
So good. We're kind of another part of here where it's like very kind of like jazz lounge-ish, right?
Yeah.
And so we were just enjoying the music. So Rick's back at the bar,
Dooley
and
Wilson.
This guy Ferrari comes in.
Dooley Wilson plays Sam.
His name is Ferrari.
Yes. Yeah, Signor Ferrari, played by Sidney Greenstreet. And he's wearing a fez. Or is he wearing is he wearing a fez in this scene, or is it? I know he's wearing one later.
It's later in the movie.
I know he wears a fez later.
Yeah, it's later. Yeah. But Ferrari's, it's his like not rival, but he's the other main competition, right? He has another large cafe, and Ferrari wants to buy it from him.
Yeah,
right?
But Ferrari's cafe it looks more like a tiki lounge.
Yes.
It's got a little bit more of a tropical vibe to it.
Hey, he's getting ahead of the curve. He's like, hey, in 40 years, Jimmy Buffett is making margaritas popular. I'm going to make bank with this place. Okay. So I love this little nugget, though. So when he tells me he won't sell the lounge, he has to buy Sam. He's like, I don't sell humans. So, and but Ferrari I love his sense of humor. He's like, yeah, it's too bad. That's Casablanca's leading commodity, right? And anyway, Rick's not interested in that. And they're still talking about Sam, and then Rick's like, you know what? We can talk to Sam about see what he wants to do. And Sam's like, I like it here.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick's like, yeah, but he'll pay you double. He's like, what am I going to do with money?
Yeah.
I love Sam.
Sam is great. Sam is great.
Which, by the way, Dooley Wilson is Sam.
Dooley Wilson plays Sam.
Yes. Funny thing about him is that he's actually, we're talking about not many Americans living in Casablanca. He's one of the few Americans also that's in the cast, because they cast a lot of refugees and English actors. Yep. But yeah, so he was born in Texas, and it's obviously his most famous role. So at that time, sadly, it's harder for African Americans to get roles. Mm-hmm. So, but he found one here, and it's iconic.
Yes, and contrary to popular belief, he's never told to play it again.
He's never told to play it again.
Yep. He's just told to play it again, Sam. Yes, he's told to play it, but he's not told to play it again, Sam.
One of the most famous misquoted movie lines. Mm-hmm. Right? So we cut back. There's a lady drinking on the bar stool. Devon. She's drinking brandy. She's drunk. She wants to get with the bartender.
Yep.
Hey, there's that theme again that we've had.
There's that theme again.
But anyway, she's told to go home. They take her out. They get a taxi, and then he sees Claude Rains out there as he's bringing her out of the bar.
Captain
and
Louis
he's talking
Renault.
about how Major Strausser is going to come in, and there's going to be this show because he knows that the person that stole the Letters of Transit is in the club. And that's when we finally get kind of the backstory where, he's the talking. It's like, he's always like, why don't you use his letters? Why don't you just go get out of here? You don't want to. But, he also knows his backstory, how he ran guns in North Africa. Mm-hmm. And he fought in Spain against the fascists in Spain before he got to Casablanca.
Yep.
Never mentions he's actually in Paris, which we'll find out later. So they go back in, and one of those other guys comes out and says, "Oh, someone's just won $20,000, and the cashier needs some money to pay it." And we're like, all right, I can go get it from the safe. Right. So he goes back in. I love how the floor manager there, it's just making sure everybody's on the up and up, right? Mm-hmm. Is apologizing to him. Someone won $20,000.
Someone won $20,000.
It's okay.
It's a casino. People are gonna win.
He just brushes it off. If this was Martin Scorsese's casino, Joe Pesci might be doing something else, right?
Yeah.
And so they continue on. Rick goes to his office. He gets the money, and that's when Renault tells him about Major Strausser actually is in here, right? And he's like, yeah, we're going to demonstrate what we can do, and we'll arrest this suspect. Don't tip him off. Well, that type of thing.
Meanwhile, Rick's got the letters in his pocket.
Yes.
In his jacket pocket.
They're not in the piano yet.
No, he hasn't hidden them yet. They're just still sitting in his jacket pocket.
Yeah. I love it. Again, because he's just that badass. Yeah. He's that swell. And that's when he tells them about there's another person that's of interest to the Germans, and he'll be there with a lady.
Yes. Laszlo will be there with a lady. And so Strausser comes in.
Strausser's in there first.
Strausser and his buddies come in, and they get to their place in there. They're looking around for the suspect.
But they finally, they get them to a table where they can just kind of wait. I'm going to tell them that, you know what, no, you're going to wait here. So, they say good evening, and then they ask Renault to stay with them, and Strausser orders some champagne and a tin of caviar. And literally Renault, because he's French, recommends a wine from 26. It was a good French wine, right? He's got to plug in his, his French. So.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so they're waiting there, and then they're at the roulette table, and he's still, he's winning because, it's a weighted table, to think. And then one of the local officers comes in and tells him he's going to have to come with him. And so Ugart says he's going to cash in his chips. He does cash them in, but then he sees the other soldiers come in, And so he tries to escape, but they corner him off. And Rick can't do anything about it. So they take him away.
Yep.
We find his fate out later. We never see it.
No, but we find it out.
Yeah. You can figure it out pretty quickly without even being told.
Yeah.
So Strasser accepts this, and that's it, right? and Rick's disappointed, and Rick just don't be a fool. You're not gonna be able to get away, and it's no use blowing his own cover, unfortunately. So
yeah. So then,
and that's what he tells everybody that I'm sorry for the disturbance.
Yes, and during this whole disturbance that's going on here, isn't that when Rick slips the papers into the piano?
Yes, and there's a gunshot too.
Yes.
And after that, everything just goes back to normal.
Yes. I mean, it's like Star Wars when after Obi-Wan chops off Ponda Baba's arm and kills Dr. Evazan. If everything stops for a second, then it all just goes back to normal. After Han kills Greedo, everything stops for a second, then it just goes back to normal, and Han tosses a coin to the bartender. Apologize for the mess.
That's it, right? So anyway, so at this point, then they bring Rick over to Strasser's table and they talk. So and Strasser tells Strasser doesn't really trust him, but so I love but even like Renault, like he's kind of playing for the Nazis at this point, but you can tell like he's not as convinced about their superiority as they are. No. He still sees a benefit. He still sees a personal benit of that's what it is. Not helping them 100%. But Strasser kind of interrogates Rick. He's like I love this reaction. It gets back to what you're saying. He just asks him, "What's your nationality?" He says, "I'm a drunkard." Right. And Renault's like, that makes him a citizen of the world. And he just says, I was born in New York City. And then Strasser gives him another piece of information about him. He's like, I saw that you were in Paris before you came here, before the occupation. And Rick's like, that's not a secret. Mm-hmm. So they kind of continue the conversation, and they talk about Rick's like, it's not my beloved Paris. And I love this, like, one of the other Germans that's over there. He's like, can you imagine us in London? Right. Rick, again, just being a badass. Like, when you get there, ask me. When you get there, ask me. They're not that good. That's pretty ballsy there. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Meanwhile, Strasser, he's just digging in his caviar. And asked about New York. Rick's like, certain sections of New York you may not want to invade. Not sure that's true today. Yep. Back then it was. Back then it really was. So, yeah. So they continue to talk about how he was never always so neutral, right? And, it goes back and forth. And so they just kind of want to know anyone who might be able to help them is really what they want to know in terms of relaying information about anyone that comes through. Because, he's got a hot club. And they want to know about, Victor Laszlo, who has not come in at this point. No, he's not coming yet. And that's the way they put it. He published the foulest lies in the Prague newspaper. And to the very day we marched in, and even after that, he continued to print scandal in a cellar. And it's like, one must admit he has courage. And all Strasser is like, he's clever. And then, Rick, he decides that, he's about to leave. He's like, if you excuse me, gentlemen, your business is politics. I'm running a saloon, right? Strasser's still not convinced. He's like, gotta keep my eye on him, essentially. Yeah. And then our pickpocket comes back. He pickpockets somebody else. And then this is when it happens. We cut back to Sam. Sam's just jamming out. Sam is jamming on that piano. And the pretty lady walks in, and he's like, oh, I know that pretty lady. Mm-hmm. Rick knows that pretty lady. Yep. And he kind of stops playing for a bit as she comes in with Victor Laszlo. So this pretty lady, of course, is Ingrid Bergman, playing Ilsa Lund. And they have the table reserved, and they bring it over, and it's not long that they get recognized, and they're looking for our friend Igor, who they can't recognize, they can't find him. It's like, I don't see anyone that the description. Because because he's already been taken away, right? But and when they sit down, Ilsa asks about Rick, and and Victor She doesn't know to make the connection yet. It's Rick.
No,
it's a common enough
Rick,
name.
Yeah, it's a common enough name. We want to speak with the owner. They request that he come and join them, and Carl gives them the same answer that he gave the guy before. Rick doesn't do that.
But they insist. And as they're waiting, another guy comes by, another patron, that offers to sell them a ring.
Mm-hmm.
This is not just any ring. It's a coated ring.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He opens up the top of it, and there's a little symbol in there.
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine.
Anyhow. So, anyway, it's some secret code that, the part of this underground, and, so they agree they will meet later to discuss things.
Yeah.
Such as Ovaltine. I like Nesquik.
I prefer Hershey's.
And then finally, as they're discussing this, then they kind of come up from behind them and it's oh, wait, no, thank you. You got a stone loose in that, right? So he kind of walks away, and there's Renault there, and they start talking, and he doesn't expect Rick to come over, but then Rick comes over and he sees Ilsa. He's like, you know what?
No,
I am going to stay.
That's not what brought Rick over. What brought Rick over is Ilsa recognized Sam.
Oh, that's right. That happens, right? Because right now
Yes.
It's just Renault's over there. He's just talking with them at first. And yeah, he's going to buy a bottle of champagne for them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then Ilsa, she looks around and she sees Sam.
She sees Sam at the piano. So she goes over and she asks him to play that old song that he used to play as time goes by.
Yes.
And he's like, no, I'm not supposed to play that song here. And she insists. She's like, come on, just play it for old time's sake. And then he starts playing it, and Rick hears it, and he comes out of the back, walks up to Sam. He's like, what? I thought I told you never to play that song here. And he sees Ilsa.
Sam, he gets out of there quick.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to be around here for this. He folds up, he gets his shirt, pushes it under, and he just pushes that piano away.
Yep.
I'm going somewhere else.
I'm out of here. I'm taking my break now. So then Rick breaks his rule.
Yes.
And he sits down with Ilsa and Victor, and he chats with them.
Yeah.
And he has a drink with them. And they talk, and then Victor and Ilsa leave after their conversation.
Yeah. Well, they have also agreed to meet with Strausser and Renault the next day also to talk about what's happening. Anyway, it's kind of an odd meeting that gets arranged.
Yeah.
So, and I like how Laszlo, during the conversation, is like, one thing's a great deal about Rick and Casablanca. And everyone's kind of impressed that Rick is actually drinking with them. And
because he never does that. Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. He covered the bill too. Then it sort of jumps ahead to closing time.
Yes.
Not the semisonic song.
Not the semisonic song.
But
this is the first third of the movie. The first third of the movie is within the nightclub here.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the other thing this is absolutely famous, right? Is it's closing time. There's two people left. It's Rick and it's Sam.
Rick and Sam.
And Rick is getting wasted.
Yeah, Rick is sitting at the bar. The lights are dimmed, the door's locked, it's not locked, but it's closed. There's no more patrons in there. It's Rick and Sam. Rick sitting at the bar just getting wasted. And this is where you get one of those famous lines that has been quoted thousands of times.
Yeah. Sam, he's begging him just go home.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just says, instead, we're going to take the car, we'll drive all night, we'll get drunk and go fishing.
Yep, but
we'll just stay away until she's gone. Yeah. They're going to fish until Ingrid Bergman leaves.
Yep. But yeah, Rick is just sitting there at the bar. He's got his glass in his hand. He's like, of all the gin joints and all the towns and all the world, she walks into mine. Yeah. And then we get a flashback to Paris. The city of love. And
we get before they get that is that he then asks Sam.
Yes, that's right. He asks Sam to play as time goes by, and Sam's like, "Are you sure?"
He's like, "I can't remember it."
He's like, "I can't remember it."
Rick's like, "If she can stand it, I can."
So he starts playing, and as he's playing, then we get the flashback to Paris, and we get the backstory between Rick and Ilsa.
They have a lover's tryst.
And then when they're about to run away together, they're about to meet at the train station, and Rick gets a letter. She doesn't show up, and there's a letter
Just
from
a
her
letter.
to Rick.
Delivered by Sam.
Delivered by Sam. Saying that she can't be with him, and she had to go. And that was the last time that he had seen her before.
This is the day.
Night.
This is like right as like the Germans are coming in to finally actually capture Paris. They're going, they're showing the lead up to it that the Germans are getting closer and closer to Paris. Like now, this is the last chance to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he does.
And during this
cynical son of a bitch.
And during this flashback, we also get another one of the most famous lines from this movie that is repeated actually quite a few times in this movie.
It's all over this movie, which I don't think I realized.
Yeah. So anytime that Rick and Ilsa are drinking together, he always raises a glass and says, "Here's looking at you, kid." And then he takes a sip. And so, yeah, that's another one of the lines that has just been repeated ad nauseum since this movie came out.
Yes. But yeah, no, I mean, I knew it was at the end of the movie. I probably realized it was maybe like another point or two, but it's repeated a lot.
Yeah. So flashback ends. We understand why Rick is so cynical, why he doesn't want Sam to play as time goes by, why he doesn't want to be reminded of his time with Ilsa. And then Sam asks about her and something about seeing her tomorrow or something like that. And he's like, "Oh, she'll be back tonight." And sure enough, she walks in the door.
Yeah. And she wants to talk to him, right? And it's like, "Okay, yeah." I say, he's like, "I saved my first drink for my first drink to have with you." And tries to reach for the bottle, and he's drunk. So and
his first drunk
not tonight. And Rick's like, "What?" He's like, "No, tonight," right? He kind of drains the glass. He reaches for another bottle, and then he basically just flats out like, "Why here? There are other places." And she just says, "I wouldn't have come if I knew you were going to be here."
Yeah.
Right. It's not that she dislikes him, obviously, as we find out. But
no, there was a reason for her.
She would have
leaving
not come
him.
out because it was awkward.
Yeah.
And it is awkward.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, we find out why she had to leave him behind in Paris later.
Yes.
But yeah, so he gets. Wasn't Carl still there? Because didn't he have Carl take her home?
Yes, that's right. So a few of them were there. Yeah.
Yeah. So he has Carl take her back to where she's staying. And then the next day we have them out in the market. We have Ilsa out in the market. And Rick goes to talk to Signor Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
And so Rick and Signor Ferrari are talking about the Legends of Transit. And they're doing this because Rick knows he's giving Renault plenty of time to take his officers in there and search Rick's bar. Search his cafe.
So
he knows what Renault's going to do. So he's like,
yeah, and Laszlo. That's part of the reason that like Laszlo's up with Strasser, and they know that they're going to search Rick's bar because they knew Ugart was there. They don't necessarily think that Rick had them and knows about it. They just thought they're hidden there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So
while Victor Laszlo is meeting with Strasser, Ilsa is out just in the marketplace, just visiting the little shops and stands and stuff that are there. And there's this guy selling tapestries.
I love it. I love the tapestry guy too.
And he's like, "This one is very nice. Only 700, only 700 francs."
The price keeps getting low.
And he's like, "Oh wait, oh." Then Rick walks up. He's like, "Oh, you know Rick? 200 francs." This drops from 700 to 200,
just like that.
And he's like,
Indiana Jones there, and then it would have been 50.
Yes. Yeah.
We have many tapestries.
Many tapestries. This is a castle, and we have many tapestries. But if you are Scottish nobility, I am Mickey Mouse.
Go back and listen to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Then she doesn't want to buy for 200, and he drops it to 100. It started at 7.
You gotta love the trading Arabs. They'll get the sale.
Yeah.
Make sure they get it. So eventually, we get back to the nightclub, and they kind of figure that Laszlo kind of figures,
and they barely gave Rick enough time to put everything back together after they were searching.
That's
everything.
Right. Good point.
So that he could put it back together in time for opening.
And
they did not find the papers.
They did not.
That he had hidden in the piano, which I would imagine. I would think that if they're searching the place, they would look inside the piano.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
No, they looked behind the tapestries.
Mm-hmm.
Look in the roulette wheel. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. Who knows what they did?
I love how was this when or was it later when Renault sends his guys in to shut down the gambling?
That's later.
That's later.
Very soon. Yeah. Yes.
that's a great little scene there.
I love this scene. Well, I mean, everything about it is like kind of what makes it work out, right? So even like before this night, I guess, when they went at the market and we talked about Rick talking to Ferrari, we see that young couple again talking to this young couple that ended up talking about Ferrari to try to find a way out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we eventually get back into Rick's place, right? So, and like I said, they barely gave him time to like get things back together for opening. And Laszlo comes back, and he essentially knows that Rick has them.
Yeah,
and he wants to buy him off of him.
Yeah, he wants to buy him off him so that he and Ilsa can get out of there.
Yes, and Rick's not having any of it right now.
No, no.
And I understand. Like, he's been spurned. He's not happy with her, right? So, that is what it is. So, of course, Strasser's back there again, and they have all the Germans there. And this is like one of those, ends up being like, it's a very kind of classic, famous scene because you have Strasser, you get the Germans, and there's all these officers, and Strasser wants to lead them in singing what's this like patriotic anthem.
I love this.
And Laszlo hears it. He's up in Rick's office.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes down and he goes over to the band, right?
Yep.
And then he gets them to play the French national anthem.
Yes, the French national anthem. So then they're singing it louder than the Germans are.
Yeah. and I love it. Like, you see all the people that are kind of in there that are just mostly playing things safe that decide just to open it all out there to tell the German stuff. Fuck off.
Yep.
Essentially. And of course, Strasser, because he's because he has no dick, orders it to be stopped. And so Renault has his guys come in. They kind of close everything down, and they close everything down on the pretense of that there's gambling going on. But he still has to collect his gambling winnings before they go. So.
Yeah, I love it. They're like he busts somebody for gambling. He's like, gambling's not allowed here. And then one of the casino workers comes out. He's like, here's your winnings, sir. He's like, thank you. Puts it in his pocket. He's like,
so it's shut down now. Like, okay, now Rick's, he allowed it. He goes out. They're starting to do it, and he allows the band to continue to play. Mm-hmm. So again, he's being badass.
Yep.
Trying to figure out exactly what game is he playing now.
Yep.
So and now we get later into it, and it's obviously after closing time again, and Rick's still there, and Ilsa comes back. Now she wants to actually try to get the letters off of him, and he refuses, and then she points a gun at him.
Well, this is so Rick. This is like in Rick has like an apartment upstairs.
Yes.
And during Victor and Ilsa's conversation earlier, Victor doesn't necessarily know about Rick and Ilsa's entire history, but he does know that they have a history. And so he decides that since he can't get the papers from Rick refuses to give them to him, he thinks that Ilsa will have a better chance at getting them.
That's right.
So he sends Ilsa to talk to him. And so Rick is in his apartment upstairs, just kind of relaxing after the day, and Ilsa sneaks in the back window.
Yeah, he's figuring out how they're going to get opened back up, essentially.
Yeah.
He realizes it's going to be a few days. He's trying to figure out how long they can get by with being closed and then get back up. And
but before that, before Rick went up there, he was talking to Carl. And Carl's like, well, how long can we last here without making any money? He's like 2, maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month. And so he tells Carl, we're closed for the time being, but make sure that all of our people still get paid.
Yes.
Make sure that everybody that works here still gets paid.
Yes.
And so Carl's like, oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, Rick.
That's like, that's that's noble.
Yeah. I mean, you're forced to close down for who knows how long, yet you're still using the money that you're not making to make sure that your employees get paid. That is a good boss right there.
I mean, he could be using the money to bribe people off to get himself back open.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Anyhow, so the thing you forgot to mention is that also, like, Laszlo, as Ilsa gets there, he goes off to meet with the dude with the ring earlier in the movie, and we find out Carl wants to go off. I guess he's kind of meets with some of these people in the underground also.
Yeah.
He's sneaking around. So he leaves. Ilsa sneaks in, and they just
Rick.
She's trying to buy off.
Yeah, she's trying to buy him off, and then he says no, and she pulls a gun on him.
She's like, "Bitch, listen to me." And then she explains kind of the actual backstory about what actually happened.
About what happened, why she had to leave him in Paris. And it's because she was married at the time. She was married to Victor at the time.
Yeah.
And he was in a concentration camp. Yeah, she believed he was dead because he was imprisoned in a concentration camp.
But then she found out, as everyone, as the Germans were approaching, that he was alive, hiding near Paris.
And yes,
right?
she
just left without the explanation because she had to go get reunited with her husband.
Yeah.
And then that's when the badass's heart starts to melt.
Yes.
Because he always had the heart of gold.
Yes. Badass with a heart of gold.
Obviously, he's paying everyone's salaries. Well,
yeah.
It might be closed for a month.
Or longer. But you know what?
They definitely a lot of success, right? So
yeah.
So he agrees to help. But he kind of lets her believe that the two of them will stay together.
Well, first he challenges her, and
yes,
because
that's true.
She's pointing the gun at him, and he's like, "You're not going to shoot me. if you're gonna do it, pull the trigger." And she can't. And so then that's when she gives him the whole backstory and all that. And they sit on the couch and have a drink together, and he says, "Here's looking at you, kid." And
that's right.
You can see in Rick that he's got hopes that they may be able to rekindle
things
together
still.
Even though she's married.
Laszlo just might end up on the wrong side of something.
Yeah.
So that's his hope. But you can kind of tell he's, not super optimistic about it, but he's trying to be optimistic about it. So, but Laszlo shows up because their resistance meeting got raided and he was able to escape out. So they take Ilsa away just in case they believe Laszlo got followed to Rex, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Rick and Laszlo, they have a conversation about, what's going to happen, right? What the plan's going to be. And, Laszlo's kind of idea is, that Rick, he knows Rick loves her, right? And he doesn't begrudge her that because, she thought, here's how good of a man Laszlo is.
Yeah.
He's not upset
he
about
understood
feelings and what happened. She thought he was dead.
Yeah. Now, it's never really revealed how much he knows about what happened in Paris.
Yeah.
But he does know that there are feelings there between Ilsa and Rick.
It was made in the early 1940s. They never get that explicit.
Yeah. He knows that he at least knows that there are strong feelings between Rick and Ilsa. And he does not begrudge Rick about that, because he understands, that anything that happened in the past was because Ilsa thought that he was dead.
Yeah.
So it's understandable that she would have feelings for another guy if she thinks that her husband is dead.
Hey, and he looks at her. She's attractive.
Mm-hmm.
She's beguiling. Yeah, makes sense. So Laszlo, he's aware of all this. He tries to persuade Rick to use the letters to take Ilsa to safety.
Yeah. He's willing
he also loves Ilsa.
He's willing to sacrifice himself so that Ilsa can be safe.
It's much safer for Rick to get out than Laszlo. He's not as wanted.
Yeah.
He's more of a nuisance than anything. So they eventually go ahead and they arrest Laszlo, right? They get some chumped up charge on Laszlo. But Rick then has to persuade Renault to release him. But they could set him up for a more serious crime.
Yes.
So possession of the letters.
So he comes up. Yeah. So Rick starts playing Renault. Right. And he, comes up with this plan that, he's going to convince Renault to release Laszlo, and then he's going to give the letters of transit to Laszlo and lead Renault there so that he can arrest him at the airport with the letters in hand.
And then meanwhile, Rick and Ilsa will have gotten on the plane, and as they're arresting him, the plane will take off. They're not going to, at that point, they're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
They got the person they wanted. That's the idea.
Yeah.
So the plan's kind of set in motion, and the other thing is we get one other scene there with Ferrari where Rick is planning to sell the bar.
Yes, yeah. Rick meets with Ferrari one more time.
Ferrari.
And he basically, since Rick is leaving town, he's got no need for his bar anymore. So he decides that he's going to give in to Ferrari's advances and sell him the bar.
And Ferrari likes the deal. I'm sure Rick's like, you know what? It's going to be in good hands.
And he even gives him Carl.
That's right. He gives him Carl.
Yes. He tells him Carl is like, he gets 25% of the profits.
Not a bad deal.
Yeah.
No wonder Carl was like, thank you.
And Ferrari's like, he'll get 10%. And Rick's like, no, Carl gets 25%. It's like, okay, he gets 25%.
Does he get Sam also? He still
Yeah,
gets Sam.
and I think he gets Sam also.
He's got the best musician in Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
anyway,
Ferrari's getting a great deal here.
Ferrari's getting a great deal. Yeah, Ferrari's set. I don't know where Ferrari's going to retire, but he's set.
Mm-hmm. So then Rick has Victor and Ilsa meet him at the bar. He tells them that, he's got the papers. He's going to sign them over to them so that they can get out of there. And then we get to the airport.
Well, before they get to the airport, Renault also alerts.
Yes, that's right. He alerts Strasser about all this because that's his whole plan. They're going to arrest Victor at the airport with the letters in hand.
And so Strasser, he's on his way. He's racing to get there, and then they get to the airport, right?
Get to the airport, and when Rick had given the papers to Renault because he had handed them over to him because he's got to sign it over. And so Renault, having been told by Rick that Rick and Ilsa's names were the ones that he was going to put on the papers, and also with Victor saying it should be Rick and Ilsa's names on the papers, Rick decides to turn things around a little bit. And when he goes to tell Renault whose names to put on the letters, he says, put Victor and Ilsa.
Everyone's what?
Everyone's like, what? That wasn't the plan.
The first twist ending ever.
He's like, put the two of them on there. They need to be safe. I don't care what happens to me as long as Ilsa is safe and with her husband.
I kind of like how Ilsa's like, wait, what? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to go with my husband. But no, he understands how important it is for Victor to get out of there, and he wants to make sure that Ilsa's safe. So he's willing
Everybody wins.
He's willing to risk his life so that they can get out of there. Badass. So...
But it's also then when we get one of the next, maybe the most famous of the lines.
Mm-hmm. We'll always have Paris.
Right? And he's telling you have to get on that plane. And you're going to regret it if you don't. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon for the rest of your life. And he ends it, saying... We'll always have Paris, right? He's like, here's looking at you, kid. And he gets that in one more time, too. Yep. And he holds her by the chin, and they go off. And Strasser now has arrived.
As
the plane has taken off.
Yeah. And this is where you get Humphrey Bogart in his most Humphrey Bogart. Like, he's got the trench coat, the fedora. Yeah. This is like, when you think of Humphrey Bogart, this is the look.
Iconic.
This is the iconic look that he has.
And Strasser's trying to call the radio tower, and you get Bogart in his look. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Rick draws a gun on him.
Yep. Rick pulls a gun.
Strasser tries to, he's about to shoot him, but Rick's quicker.
Strasser goes to draw his gun, and as he's drawing it, Rick shoots him. He shoots once, and Strasser has one of those early Hollywood theatrical deaths.
I love it. I love those. This isn't a Tarantino. No, early Hollywood, early dramatic. It's terrific. And the police arrive, and Renault's like, says like, oh, the captain's been shot, killed. Round up the usual suspects.
Mm-hmm.
Thus protecting Rick.
Yes, thus protecting Rick.
And then they discuss what they could do together. They're going to do something different. And I think they specifically talk about joining the French in Brazzaville, which is in the furthest south in Africa in the Congo, if you're not familiar. Anyway.
And then as they're walking off down the foggy
what a
tarmac,
great shot, by the way.
Then we get another one of those famous lines. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
And then you get the classic way they used to end movies, the end. And Porky Pig comes out and says, that's all, folks.
But that's all, folks.
Not on this one. Sorry.
No.
But yeah, the fog, like the entire setting of that last scene, like the mood is perfect. The acting's perfect for it too. It's just all perfect. And yeah, it's a fantastic end to the movie. And it's no wonder it's a classic. They got this iconic movie stars.
That last line though, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah.
How many times has that been just quoted in so many things since then? It's another
some type of variation. Yeah, that's a great point. I wish it'd be easier to I know you can kind of look up movie connections, but like specifically by what that connection is, especially if it's a line like that.
Yeah. And it's the last line of the movie.
Last line of the movie. One of the greatest final lines of any movie.
Mm-hmm.
Is right there. Let me go back. We're talking about all of the lines. I said there was 6. And what numbers did they come in at?
Let's see.
So Here's Looking at You, Kid was number 5.
Okay.
Louis, I think it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Is number 20. Play It, Sam. Play As Time Goes By. It's number 28. Round Up the Usual Suspects was 32. For Always at Paris was 43. And 67 was all the gin joints and all the towns and all the world she walks into mine. And then the other one that was nominated, which we did not mention, is Ilsa, I'm No Good at Being Noble. But it doesn't take much to see that the problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one, too.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
But he is noble.
He is. He is very noble.
I mean, I can see his point about, like, their little triangle problems don't amount, but, like, they all can serve a purpose against kind of the greater thing that they're fighting in this movie.
Yeah.
Essentially. No. It's always good when a Nazi dies in the end.
Yes. Yes, it is. We don't get any, like, good shots of people punching Nazis in this, like in Indiana Jones.
No.
I love watching Indy punch Nazis.
Yes.
But we do get one get shot.
Yes.
We do see one getting shot.
Well, I guess, there were two that died off screen before the movie.
Yep.
So the deaths help propel the movie, the story. It's just, it's crazy how iconic the entire thing can still be, how it is.
Yeah.
And it's just incredibly timeless. And I like Humphrey Bogart. Like, in some ways, like, you would love to see what type of movies he could have made if he was, born at a later point. But no, I think he was perfect for the era he had.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's, I like that he said that, because, like, he's not someone you would think about right away when he said great movie badasses. But he's there. He deserves a place.
Yes, he does. So yeah, that is Casablanca. Was there anything that we missed?
I don't think there's a whole lot that we missed. No, I think we hit a lot of the major points, and yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed watching it.
I did too.
I watched it with Nicole. It was a great movie to watch together. And again, it's a movie that probably defies like genre, because, like, again, it's number one on the passions list, but, like, you don't think about it as being that romantic movie in that sense. I mean, it's romantic in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's different than other movies that might be specifically, all about,
it's not like, it's not a romance.
Yes. And, I'm glad it's on the thrills list to think about it, because at the end of the movie, like, you're trying to figure out what's going to actually happen.
Yeah.
You get to the edge of the seat by the end of this movie.
Yep.
So, I don't know. It's like, I watched it. It's like, yeah, this thing just continues just to impress. So, yeah, I'd watch it again just like that. Look at that. There's so many. I don't know why I just saw this as I'm looking at this thing on its influence. The film critic Roger Ebert pointed out the plot of the film Barbed Wire was identical to that of Casablanca. So, I've never seen Barbed Wire.
Barbed Wire, like the Pamela Anderson movie? Yes. That Barbed Wire?
That Barbed Wire. Oh, wait, yeah. Listen to this plot. 2017, during the Second American Civil War, Barbed Wire owns the Hammerhead, a nightclub in Still Harbor, the last free city in the United States, ravaged by the war. She earns cash as a mercenary and bounty hunter. The chief of the police raids her club. There's a fugitive there, right? Yeah, that sounds like Casablanca.
Plot. Yeah, that's
Pamela Anderson as Humphrey Bogart.
maybe Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah, this is a movie though I would love to find, and this, we've talked about different movies that get releases, but I could see this just being something that you could probably easily find at one of your classic cinemas that likes to play classic films.
Oh yeah,
and at some point during the year that they would show it, and I would love to see this on the big screen.
Oh yeah, it'd be great,
and it gives you motivation to just want to watch more Humphrey Bogart movies.
It does, it really does.
I think this is an appropriate movie for a first kind of golden age movie of Hollywood.
I concur.
I think it's probably my last word.
All right. Oh no, yeah, I highly recommend this movie if you haven't seen it. It's well worth a watch. It was well deserving of the Oscar that year.
It was.
But if you would like to follow us on social media, you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. We are Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. We are also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And if you want to check out some of our reviews on movies, some that we've done on the podcast, some we haven't done, some we will do, some we won't do, check out our Letterboxd. That is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, CINE Adventure. And if you want to let us know what you thought about Casablanca, you can send us an email. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Is it your favorite movie from this era? Is it your favorite movie of all time? Is it your least favorite movie? Do you hate movies from early Hollywood, from the golden age of Hollywood?
Please don't be that person that just wants to hate them because
Yeah.
it's black and white.
Yeah. Black and white movies need love too. But whatever your opinions are, let us know. You can send us an email at robandtonycinematicadventure@gmail.com. Once again, the and is spelled out. It's A-N-D, not an ampersand like this is the name of the podcast. And yeah, if you enjoy what you're hearing, then go ahead and go to all the social media spots. Give us a like and a follow. Go to your favorite podcast app, wherever you're listening to us, and subscribe. Give us a good review, a good rating. That's how we move up in the standings and the search and the recommendations, all of that stuff, because that helps us to find more listeners and be able to reach out to more ears and find more movie lovers. But next week, we are going to be continuing our Oscar series, our Best Picture winner series, with a movie that's a little bit more recent.
We're jumping forward quite a bit.
Yep. We are going to be talking about our second Coen Brothers movie.
It is our second Coen Brothers movie, yes.
We're going to be doing No Country for Old Men. So that will be an interesting conversation.
It will be. I'm excited to cover this.
So am I. This is a movie I've only seen once, so it'll be good to revisit it and, see if, see what I think about it. Because I don't remember all of this movie.
All right.
But I do remember key moments in it. So it'll be nice to, because, the first time I watched it, it was on TV and I wasn't really fully paying attention to it. So,
then it'll be different.
So it'll be nice to actually sit down and be able to give it my full attention and see what kind of discussion we can get out of it.
It sounds good. I'm excited.
So join us next time for No Country for Old Men.